So I was born in Bristol. My mom and dad split up about like a year into it, and she went on to remarry a couple different times throughout my childhood. I ended up being next to the oldest of 7 kids, and like childhood was pretty good. Mud pies, ice cream trucks, all the things. We didn't realize we were poor, although the childhood did consist of like Salvation Army Christmases and food stamps back when it looked like Monopoly money. But we didn't know because mom was always in the picture. So as I start getting older, though, more responsibility gets shifted onto me and my older brother, especially, because mom's got to work, and we're of an age that's kind of appropriate to look out for the rest of them. So I guess it kind of I was required to grow up a little quicker, getting up for school and getting the others up for school and coming home and nobody would be home and all the things, making sure the house was clean. We had chores. My mom instilled a lot of good stuff in me growing up. But with that, it come growing up too early, a lot of responsibilities. And because there were so many kids, I had a lot of freedom to like get lost in all the mess. We'd go outside to play. She didn't know if I was in the backyard or 2 miles from the house, which is where I found myself most of the time, all over Kingsport on a bike. And as a child, when I craved attention or needed to know that I mattered, it was harder to get that too, because it's hard to distribute yourself. I would imagine that it was hard for my mother to distribute herself evenly amongst 7 kids and meet their needs as such. So I found, and I didn't notice this at the time, but looking back on it, I'm able to see that I found the best way to get attention, and it was to act out, and not only did I get attention, but I probably got away with a lot more because, like, he's kind of a loose cannon. He might show his ass, and I developed a bit of a reputation for myself as being a hothead and being rebellious, and it just kind of became the expected behavior from me at that point in my life. Plus, she had 6 other kids to worry about. So you just kind of got to write that one off for the moment and at least reel them in so they don't follow his footsteps.
Well, you're also like a liability.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. So like if he wants to go play across town, by all means, let him. But y'all better keep your ass in the yard, and that's kind of what happened. One of the men that she had remarried, man, I thought he was the coolest. I'm like 12 and 13. He's 27, 28. He was bumping Dr. Dre Chronic 2001. This is new to me. He had a system. He'd take me out 4-wheeling, shooting guns. I mean, I thought this man was the man. Michael was his name. Michael also smoked weed, and he would smoke it in front of me with his buddies, and then I kind of put 2 and 2 together. I actually put it together before he ever did it in front of me. I started hanging out with my older cousins, and they smoked weed. And then I said, damn, that's the smell that I've been smelling in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? So damn, he smokes weed. And then, he started doing it in front of me a little bit. And so now I kind of got it in my head that I'm becoming a man. 13 years old, I'm a grown-ass man, right? And this is what men do. Based on the company that I'm hanging out with on the weekends with my older cousin and the man of the house in my home, this is what men do. One of the things that they do. So like I want to do it, I can't wait for my chance to do it. But I guess I'm a little scared though, because I don't know, I've been warned about this and DARE and all the things along the way, and just don't do drugs and all that, but seems like everybody else is doing it. So one day he offers it to me. He's like, man, have you started smoking this stuff yet? And I lied. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Definitely, who doesn't? And so he smoked with me. And I don't remember exactly how I felt. I know I was too high, way too high, and it probably wasn't even enjoyable, and I had to go home, but I don't remember. But what I do remember is after that, when I woke up in the mornings to go to school, I was on a mission, man. I know it's in here somewhere. You know, where's it at? I'm gonna get some more of that. And I found it, Yahtzee box under the bed. And that became part of my routine almost daily. I would go into the bedroom. They were going off to work, and I'm getting the brothers and sisters up for school, and I'd go to that Yahtzee box, and I'd get me an old joint out, and I'd roll it, and I'd smoke it, and I'd head off to school, you know. And then I'd come home and I'd run the streets. And that's just when I'd come home when the street lights come on. Around this same time, I'm also chasing girls pretty heavily, because that's another part of being a man, right? Get high, make money, and get women, you know. And at 13, I think that concludes my manhood experience. And so I'm not getting any money yet, but I'm going to get the girls and I'm going to do the drugs. Man, if I fast forward a little bit, I mean, the progression of drug use happened pretty rapidly for me. I guess it was, you know, the neighborhood I grew up in, the time period that it was, the pills were a big deal, and the people that I was hanging out with was significantly older than me. And so now I'm selling some drugs. Now it's giving me the money part too, you know, and it's coming with a lifestyle that I'm enjoying. You know, and I'm making my own rules, and I'm doing what Riley wants to do anytime, you know, but because of that mindset, I mean, that's what got me taken from my mother and run through state's custody and bounced around in several houses. But at that point, man, that's y'all's problem. It's not my problem. You know, y'all got the issue. I don't have the issue. If you'd stop worrying about me and I got this under control, everything would be fine, you know. But yeah, it definitely worked for me then, you know, because I was able, man, so many friends. My phone was always ringing. I had money in my pocket and drugs in my pocket and a place to stay, and I felt good, you know. And I didn't see the end of that, and I was perfectly content with life going on like that. Like I said, my progression through the drugs did go very quickly, and so the first time I put a needle in my arm, I was 14 years old on the run from a group home, and staying with people way too old that I had no business staying with, and one of them gave me the backs off a green bean, bro, and I didn't know what got a hold of me, you know. And that type of lifestyle led me to the point where at 16 I'm getting locked up for an armed robbery because I've been smoking crack and shooting oxys and ran out of money. Because I don't have a job and my money's limited, and there's no other good way to get it at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I went and held a gas station up, and ended up, it caught up with me, and they gave me juvenile time, thank God, you know, but I did about 3 years on that. And that was the first time that I thought to myself, like, damn, maybe this is a problem. You know, maybe the lifestyle I've been living is going to bring some hardship on me. Maybe it's more than just their problem. Maybe this is my problem. So what I'm going to do is, when I get this behind me, I'm going to tighten up. You know, I'm not going to go back to doing what I was doing before, with the selling and the doing and the hard drugs. And, you know, I mean, Roger, I was gang banging and everything in this chapter of my life, you know, and I'm not going to go back to that. And I'm in it, you know. And I got released when I was 19. They had to let me go. And when I tell you I've never hit the ground running so fast in the wrong direction, I did. You know, I mean, straight back to it, bigger and better than before. Buddies from my past dropped weight on me, and I was king shit again, you know, and there wasn't a problem with it. That wasn't a problem with it belief that I had was very short-lived. I mean, a month later, you know, a gun's going off and drugs are being stolen, and the cops are around, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to prison forever, you know, like, if I don't change my life. And it scared me, you know, because I realized that I had just came home with the best of intentions on not doing this. And not only am I doing it, but I'm doing it worse than before, faster than before, and it scared me. And I didn't know what to do about that, but I was pretty sure, though, that because my intentions were pure on doing right, the problem had to be this place. It's gotta be these people. If I could just get away from that and them, then I would be okay, because I know where my heart's at, and I meant to do good. So I ran off to Texas. Didn't know much about Texas. All I knew is that I had a couple cousins that grew up in the general vicinity of where I landed, and they were fine. So I'm like, this seems to be a good breeding ground for, like, functioning members of society. I'll go there. And I did, and I did okay for a little while, but let's face it, I didn't know anybody. I was in a town of 1,000 people. I had really good people give me really great opportunities, you know, as far as supporting me where I was and understanding my situation, providing me with employment and even a place to stay. I mean, a clean slate, if you will. And they gave me that, and I felt really hopeful. And I started giving people that had loved me and suffered because of my actions before hope as well. You know, that maybe I was onto something. I can remember when it happened. I was changing oil in an oil lube, and a car come in one day, and I smelt it. I said, oh shit, there's some weed. You know what I'm saying? So I holler at the guy, what's up, man? Like, but what else can you get though? You know, like this is my foot in the door to the lifestyle that I've been running from, you know, because I was sheltered from it by ignorance of not knowing anybody down here. But now that I've met one of my people, man, I'm trying to get right back at it because I feel pretty good about it now. I mean, this isn't there. You aren't them. This will be different this time. And it wasn't. And I started on the drugs again, and then I progressed through the same cycle of like, you know, doing the harder drugs, lying and manipulating and using and stealing and robbing and hurting all these brand new people that are in my life and had no idea what was about to happen to them. I did the same thing to them that I had done to everybody else in my past. And was able to do it a little bit longer too because they were shocked at like what was happening. You know, but I had eventually, you know, burned all those bridges. Matter of fact, left with warrants. You know, I robbed that oil lube, the same oil, the oil lube that gave me the opportunity, man. I stole every dollar from them and left out on them. And with some grand scheme that I was just gonna go buy a bunch of drugs and sell them for profit and just live on the run, you know, 20 years old with no sense at all. Well, now I find myself homeless, did all those drugs and the money's running out, and now I have warrants and I don't know what to do because I've burned all these bridges. So I guess it's time for me to go back home because at least up here I know that people love me and care about me and will look out for me, and they'll be happy to see me. They weren't happy to see me at all. They were all very disappointed. Man, long story short as I can make it, man, I stole some pistols off my brother, took the police on a chase, and did another armed robbery and went to prison for 8.5 years. And that one hit hard. Well, part of it was in Virginia, part of it was Tennessee, because I run them across the line. The robbery happened in Tennessee. They got behind me. I ran them to Virginia, so I did 6.5 in Virginia and about 2 in Tennessee. And I got sentenced to 12 years. 21 years old, 12-year sentence, couldn't see the end of it. You know, I didn't think I was going to make it home from it. Scared to death. I go into prison, and at first, man, I'm just full of fear and not really knowing. I mean, I'd had the state's custody and the juvenile would give me a little experience on how to carry myself, and I was doing okay as far as carrying myself, but I didn't know the end game to it or how this was going to work out. So I went in rowdy, just an angry young man with a sentence that he didn't think he was ever going to pull off, and I was just a mess, you know, and I was running wild. After a couple of years, I finally settled down, and somewhere around 25, something clicked within me that, like, I don't know who Riley is. I'm not comfortable being the person that I am today, and this tough guy, standoffish attitude that I've carried around with me for so long doesn't feel natural.
It's not working anymore.
Yeah, it's not working. I mean, I'm doing it for this situation that I find myself in, but that's not me, you know, and I've been doing it for so long that I believed it was, but now I'm sure that it's not. But then that brings me to the question, well, who am I? I don't know. I don't know. And I think I might be a nice guy, you know, and I think I like the idea of like helping people. But I'm in prison, man, about halfway through an 8.5-year sentence, so I can't practice this belief that these are parts of me that I've just discovered. But I kind of pocketed that, you know.
You became your own liability with that thought process.
For sure, man. Around this same time, I found out that when I'd ran off from Texas, I'd left a daughter behind, you know, and that was when it really hit me that my actions really affect other people. Because here was something that I had done and forgot about 4 years prior to this. And it had affected the lives of this little girl and her family every day since then. and wasn't even on my radar. So with those two crushing blows, I would say that somewhere around 25, at least my mind state took a turn from the direction that I was heading in. And I made up my mind. I'm starting to think I can finish this sentence after all. I'm halfway through it almost. And so I have a greater appreciation for everything that I'm missing in life. I have a handful of people that are coming up and seeing me and sticking me through, and I'm like, okay, they are the ones that really love me. I should invest back in them like they have me. And I make up my mind again. Man, if I can get this behind me, I'm gonna do so good, you know. I'm gonna find out who I am, dude, and I'm gonna love these people that have loved me, and it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna go be a father to this little girl, a grandson to my grandparents, a brother to my siblings, all these things, you know. I try taking a couple classes, and I'm looking for religion, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to figure this out. And I feel pretty confident about it. But you know, I got a disease that centers in my mind that wants to kill me, and it's cunning and baffling, right? And my brain tells me bullshit, and the other part believes it, and it sounds like a good idea. So I have these friends that are coming from, I'm in Virginia State Prison at the time. I have friends that are coming from Tennessee prison. And they're like, man, wait till you get down to Tennessee. The yards down there are flooded with dope. Man, you can get a gram of ice for $100. I'm like, what's this ice you speak of? You know, I don't know anything about that. And so something in my head tells me, like, man, I can't wait to get down there and try some of this ice for myself. You know, like, I know I'm gonna do good when I get out, and if I behave myself while I'm in prison, I'll only go to Tennessee for like 3 to 6 months. My time's running concurrent. I'll parole out immediately. So I'm gonna go down there and have like one last hoorah, you know, and before I go out there and get my life together. And I believe that. So I came down to Tennessee looking for it. I found it. And I went up for parole 3 to 6 months later, like I knew I would. And Roger, I told the parole board, I said, we can't send me home right now. You know what I'm saying? We can't do this to my family. They've been waiting for 7 years, and I haven't been to bed in 7 days. You know, I'm strung out like a lab rat in prison right now. And I thought they'd put me off for 6 months or something, put me in a drug class. They told me run it to the gate. So so I did 2 more years behind that bad decision. And but once again, man, I believe my own stuff. And I make the best out of every bad situation I've ever been in. So I tell myself, it's okay. This will give me enough time to like reel it in. You know, I got to get control of this thing so that way when I do get out, I'll be okay. And that's definitely not what happened. You know, I proceeded to put my own life in jeopardy by running up debts that I couldn't pay, be the biggest burden I've ever been on my family, I believe, to date, by having them fear for my life and pay money that they definitely couldn't afford for dope that I had no business doing. Every day for the next 2 years, you know. When I got released, you know, I got high the morning I got released with the belief that when I got released, the newfound freedom, I would be high on life for at least the next 2 weeks, you know, because I haven't been out here in 8.5 years. So like, that's gonna get me over the curve of like this Suboxone sickness and this, you know, mental obsession that I have right now. And by then I'll be settled into this life, this opportunity that I've waited for. I'm gonna go be the father, brother, grandson, you know, that I planned on being this whole time. And so I came home again, best of intentions, and made it about 5 days, you know. Just a train wreck. I've thought back on this several times, and it blows my mind. I went to my intake drug test for probation, got released from prison, went to report 2 weeks later. I wrecked my truck 2 times on the way there and nodded out through my intake appointment after burning the cup up. Violated immediately, and didn't understand. Like, the people that were there for intake with me were genuinely concerned for my well-being and convinced I was going to jail that day. But I thought that everybody got high like this, you know. And since then, Roger, you know, I've been on drug court for 1.5 years, and I've been at the probation office 3 days a week for that 1.5 years, and I've never seen anybody that high in there before. But it was just my normal. It's what my brain believed. So anyways, violated immediately. That just set me off on the belief that this is just, not just the belief for myself, but the belief for my family as well. If this is just who I am and what I'm always gonna do, and it's not getting any better. You know, I'm headed back to prison and I'm always gonna be this junkie. You know, and that didn't sit too well with me. You know, I know that I can do prison, because I've done it, but man, it's a miserable existence. And I'd just as soon die, you know, than to keep hurting my family the way that I have. But while I'm not scared to go back to jail because I know that I'll do it, man, I'm scared of the other side of death because I've never done it before. And so I'm not really convinced that that's something that I'm willing to step into. So I just kind of did all the drugs that I could maliciously, hoping that maybe an overdose would take me out gracefully. And in the meantime, at least maybe I wouldn't be so miserable because of all the drugs that I was putting in my system. Man, I found myself in a pattern of being on the run with warrants, in jail for 3 to 6 months at a time, several overdoses in between, just a burden on my family, homeless, robbing, stealing, just like the worst I had ever been. For the next year and a half, that was my life. And the last 10 months I was out there, I think I overdosed at least 8 times that I can recall, and it was just horrible. It was horrible. When the police finally caught up with me, man, I was in a bathroom trying to get my last shot in and build up the courage to have them kill me, because they were convinced I had a gun and I was letting them believe it, you know. And I called my granny and told her I loved her, and I did my shot, and they're in there deep with guns drawn, talking about come out, and I'm saying take your safety off because mine ain't on, let's go. But at the end of the day, I'm afraid, man. You know, I'm afraid to die, and I know I can go do jail if that's what it's going to be. So if you'll give me a cigarette, I'll come on out. You know, I don't even have any cigarettes in here. I'm not trying to die like this today. So that's what got me to a state of brokenness, to where I was completely convinced in my own mind that I had tried everything that I could think of to live life successfully, with or without drugs, because I had attempted to quit, you know, along the way, and I had attempted to switch my drugs up along the way, and I had done the maintenance drugs, and you know, I had been, since 16 when I realized that I was probably messing up, 16 to 32, I had been actively trying to figure this out, you know, and just one good idea after another one, and I failed miserably, and now I find myself in a jail cell, probably heading back to prison, and there was a bit of a peace in this moment, because at least it's over now. Man, I'm not on the run. Something about this initial prayer for me of like, dude, if you're up there, I'm done trying, you know, really brought a lot of peace into my life. And even though I believed I was going back to prison, I just felt okay with it, you know, and I wasn't sure why. But man, after that admission of being powerless over my life, even before I knew a thing about a step, you know, that took place for me, and things started to happen that gave me faith in something, and I leaned into that so heavily, you know, and I didn't know what the outcome looked like, but for me, it looked like getting the opportunity to get released from jail early and to go to a treatment center where I was introduced to recovery. I don't know that I was introduced to recovery for the first time, but I was able to receive the introduction to recovery for the first time, and I grabbed onto it. You know, there's a book I read that said it's a flimsy reed that turned out to be the loving hand of God. And I find that to be so true in my own life, because I don't know that this is going to work. But like I said, I've already admitted to myself that I've run out of good ideas. And so I grab onto this thing, you know, with everything that I have in me. And
so how long has it been since that moment?
19 months. I'm fronting myself a couple days.
So the guy that was like bargaining with the police for a cigarette.
Oh no, now, so it's been almost 2 years to the day since that happened. And I sat in jail for 6 months or so. And I went to treatment March 1st of 2022.
Did they give you a cigarette?
They did. I said, you gotta promise not to whoop me. Roger, they were in there with shields. Oh, it was so bad. I had to go back into making amends to the hotel people. I'm supposed to be doing work on their hotel, and this is what's happening.
Wow, for the amends?
No, for staying in the room the first time. Yeah, because I didn't have money for a hotel room, you know. I was doing work on their hotel to stay there, and now this is happening, you know. They're like,
Okay, yeah.
the poor girl that I'd held hostage, basically, I mean, not literally, but basically, for like the months leading up to that, she was so happy to see the police at the door that day. She's like, he's in the bathroom. Please get this fool.
So what's life look like today?
Man, life today, I live a life today that I never thought possible. While at the same time being a person today that I always felt like I was. Like in my heart, I always believed I was a good person. I believed these things about me. Even when I didn't know who I was, I felt that there was something good about me, while none of my actions showed that. And I think that people along the way, certain ones, saw that based off of nothing that I was doing, and they poured into that. And today, I am that individual, man, and it's just so amazing to live a life today to where I love myself and I'm proud of myself, but more importantly, man, I'm able to love other people and be proud of them and care about what's going on in their lives and how I can pour into their lives. And that's so new to me because I've always been a taker, you know. And so to even have the desire to care about another person when it doesn't benefit me at all is amazing.
What's your favorite thing about recovery?
Oh man, my favorite thing about recovery, I mean, the fellowship is amazing. Whether it's in the houses or in the rooms or even just the ability to fellowship with other individuals on the planet in a successful, like just that gift that has been given to me to like be a part of something is amazing. A connection with God though makes all that possible because prejudices of my past had always cut me off from that. And when it was given to me in a way that I could apply it to my life and practice it daily, it's really strengthened that, and so that's amazing in itself. Makes the rest possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.